well that would flow into the back of this really large fire. And it's called the well deck. If you think about the courtroom here, imagine a height probably as high as the second level here. What they would do is they'd open up the back of the boat, flood it with water. And a smaller, like transportation boat would float right in, unload, load up the grain, ship them out, push them offshore. And so there was a pretty large space. And I remember one evening around 8, 9 p.m., my sergeant comes, he says, "Hey, I need four Marines." And so I hop up, my buddy hopped up, and we looked towards the sea. We jump up and we go out to the boat there. And what he wants to do, he points out and says, "I want you guys to go all the way over there. I need you to move all those ropes and those chains off the deck. 9 p.m. at night. Never done it before, never walked down that far." So we're at the end of this well deck platform. That's about 2 stories high. And typically, as you see the rail that goes across the second level here, the well deck also had a railing system, but it's easily removed. That night, the railing system wasn't there. So as a young 18-year-old, I needed the slide all over the 30-foot drop, no railing. These chains are about this big around. You know, super heavy, and we're going to be pulling. I better be careful. First thing I thought in my head, I had to be careful. Well, one of the buddies that was out there, he was one of these home guys that just really big. As soon as you told me to do something, you go out there and go get it done. So he runs out there, he immediately goes to the edge of that ledge and starts pulling these chains. Now, Harold goes all the way closest to the wall, stay away from the edge. And I'm watching him out of the water. Both, you know, dealing with these ropes and these chains. And I'm seeing that he's sweating, he's pulling it up and kind of exaggerating his movements, really deliberate what he was doing, not paying attention to the edge. And all of a sudden, I see one of these moves. Out of the corner of my eye. Now, as I look over, I see him fall 30 feet up onto the hard way bed. There's no water under there. So my buddy, Lance Fork was a wall. He ended up breaking his collarbone, both of his shoulders, walked around and like this for months, and eventually got separated out of the Marine Corps. So, probably, and there's a very specific reason why I don't tell that story, because that's my working story about safety. One of the primary things that I always emphasize is you have to look out for each other when it comes to safety. That's all it's about. Looking out for your coworker, your colleague, your teammate, whoever they are. But an interesting thought popped into my head not too long ago, and that was, what were we doing up there in the first place? It wasn't our job to move those chains. Not that night, not ever again. Never went up there again. Right? So there's someone whose specific job is to move those chains, but for some reason they asked us to. Now, what separated people that asked us to do it from the folks that actually did it? The leadership. Right? Possibly my leadership acknowledged, hey, wait, we've never done that before. Why are we doing that? Why do you need us to know? Maybe they should have went out there, taken a quick look at it to make sure it's safe. Right? No, it's sent us up there. At 18, I didn't think about that. But now, at my more advanced age, I never think about that. It's all about leadership. And I know most of you are leaders within the county, elected officials. I would like to take a quick moment and have you just kind of think back when you first got that leadership position or you were first elected. And you knew at that particular point that you're responsible for a task and a task can be completed. And you were responsible for a duty. In that first moment, when someone looked at you, asked you a question, waiting for the answer of what they should do, and you knew at that particular point in time that whatever came out of your mouth, deliberately, that responsibility, right? It's a weird feeling. It was a weird feeling for me the first time you put me in charge, or I didn't really pretty much unless I left it bad. But sometimes, along the way, we get used to it. And we just start saying, we'll just pass out whatever the order is, or whatever the request is, whatever we need them to do, and not think about it. I created this session, I put that back in the forefront of your mind. That when you have people that are under you, that are subordinates to you, that are going to follow whatever direction we give them, you have to think for them sometimes and think about what are all the different outcomes out of that. And that's what this is about. Everything rises and falls. Oh, I'm sorry for that. Life is not working. Everything rises and falls on leadership. A lot of people, when things go wrong, go to the staff. But a lot of times, you don't need to look much further than what was the guidance for the sheep. So before we get too far, all know that has anyone used Slido before? It's a really cool interactive app. If you have your phone out, you point to this little QR code that's on the screen. If you open up the actual one, browser. Yeah, I do it on back. See if I can move this up a little bit. I don't know as far as it goes. Can you guys see it on that? Very well, good. Yes. So this is going to be an app where you can post any questions that you may not want to ask out loud. This session should be interactive. Feel free to throw out a question. If you have a question, if you want to respond to something I mentioned, feel free to share it with me. But you can also do so through this app. Okay? And so I think we should be able to see that first question that comes up for you. Which emoji best represents how you feel about your achievements or our achievements? We're feeling good. Let's see who responds first. There it is. And uneasy. You guys see that? I did just have to go on that.
Yeah,
No, you're fine. I never go out on the street, you can be this small.
All we can afford.
I'm recording it, we go. Good deal. All right, so we're looking like I'm on my own now, we're gonna be like, we're gonna be, let's talk about that today. So, you can just join again, once again, a little bigger one, this slide. Put on this little slightly bigger, this is the first time. So, does anyone remember the West Fertilizer Plant, not too far from me? So I'm from Tarrant County, I live in Norfolk. As John would probably attest, I've been down here to, I come down all the time, whether I'm coming here heading south to Austin. And one of the places I like stopping at is that, Swap Church, I can't say it. They got some good, what is it? They got good barbecue, that's all I can, so I stopped by there, that's where I take my first break, you know, being fuel up, get a sandwich. But one of the really interesting things about that town is from there, as soon as you enter town, you go over to the left, there used to be that restaurant. We all know what happened there. Back on April 17th of 2013, a fire at that plant caused a massive explosion. We had 15 fatalities, 260 injuries, and the town was completely destroyed. It was all over the news. All right, we all remember that? Very serious event. So we're gonna do a case study as we move along today. And we're gonna talk about that West fertilizer plant. And where some of the law or all the law lies. Yeah. So question for you, true or false, for anyone that with the slide out? Nearly 85% of all workplace accidents, injuries, and deaths are caused by worker unsafe acts, safety policy violations, and taking places. I think that's true or false? True. See, so far we got 100% true. No one thinks it's false. Right? Trick question? So 100% believe that's true. So it's a worker being unsafe, violating safety policy, or being unsafe acts, just generally speaking. Got it. The one thing I want to focus on, we're gonna come back to that question as well. But the one thing I want to focus on is leadership are the ones that shape those policies, they shape the culture. They shape what's going on within their individual teams and overall in the actual county. And sometimes it comes down to what type of leader you are. Whether you are directly involved or you're not involved, how that safety culture happens in that county is generally up to the individual leaders. So one of the things we like to do when I come in is I like to come in and speak directly to the leadership. I want to know what's going on. Are you involved? Do you ensure that there are safety meetings? Do you have, stand-up meetings before the work begins? Are you reviewing the environment, what's going on, where your team's going when it comes to road and bridge? Because what that does is that allows you to understand exactly what your teams are going through and what they might face when you go out there. Earlier this morning, I was speaking with another county of North. And one of the things, they had a few different poison ivy lawsuits claims where they had gone out multiple times. And each time they went out to clear out some ditches, the road and bridge folks, they came back with poison ivy. And it was claim filed. Right? And so eventually, after this leadership comes in and says, hey, we are no longer going out when we typically used to go out to take care of that poison ivy. We're gonna wait until the winter, all of the guys out, and then we'll check it. And if it's clear, we'll go ahead and clear out those actual ditches. Well, the community hall, they wanted to figure it out. Like this week, they're ready for it to go, but they went out there, leadership stopped them, went out there to check, still poison ivy, said, see you after, fall. And that's the end of the story. And that's how you protect your individual team members. And again, leadership reinforces culture. Right? It's almost like a cycle where based on the time, as time goes by, as you're actually tolerating behaviors from your teammates or allowing them to kind of set the pace or set what's going on, You know, let's say, I really mentioned about voice play. How much of that is followed? Who is looking at? The leader, right? So if you're allowing that to go by, if you're allowing the corners going by, as long as the job is done. Then eventually what happens is you build up an actual culture within those departments. And most of the time, that's what we see. As a safety guy, I typically look at trends. And a lot of times, I'm looking at a trend, I can see, you know, there's been 10 trip and fall lanes where people have slipped, tripped, or fell, and injured themselves in this particular environment. And it's within the same department, same police. I look no further than leadership. Because at that particular point, there's something about that culture or the communication, whether the folks aren't going back to the leader and saying, hey, this area is a little dangerous. We may need to do something else. We may need to, you know, bring in some other type of equipment to take care of this. That type of communication, that feedback from your employees and your staff is vitally important. And so when I engage with the leadership, whenever I start listening to trainings, that's what I'm looking for. How often do you communicate with me? How often do you just have to sit down meeting and say, where you guys facing out? Particularly if you're not on site. Now, with all that being said, I do understand that the leaders have their own pressure points, right? We got a lot of stuff going on at 81. Right? We got to deal with staffing shortages, limited resources, you know, delays, shifting priorities. That's something that we all experience working with good towns, right? Like one day is this, the next day is something else. And then they sort of like, well, you finish this? Right? And so what we typically see there, we'll see leadership pushing their guys this way, pushing the guys and gals that way. And they're really pressures on top. And just like the young Samora in the Marine Corps, most of those guys just want to get the job done for you. They just want to get it done. So if you don't do something to do, that means cutting a few corners, you're gonna cut those corners. Right? And confidence, how about that? Ever been told to do something, you know, like I've never done that in my life. Like, how do we do this? How do we shut down a busy road with heavy traffic? Right? Like typically we're on a smaller county road, or a farm market road, and then all of a sudden, you want to supply this significant thoroughfare. Well, this is we do it like we always do. Doesn't work like it always works. Different variables. And so as leaders, we sometimes have to take a step back and look at those variables. You kind of figure out what's the best strategy. And again, rely on your actual employees to give you that feedback. Hey, what are you seeing out there? What's the best approach to this? Do you feel like you're a little bit more of a risk or danger on this one than the last one? Or the ones we typically do? Yeah, okay, well, let's figure out something we recommend. Make sense? There we go. Let's go back to West Fertilizer. I know you guys can see this, and we're reading this all. So when West Fertilizer, believe it or not, they came to West Texas late 2007, early 2008. They had an insurance company come out and do a loss control inspection, something I used to do prior to joining TAC. I go out, look at the operation, look at the numbers, look at the losses, try to figure out what are the gaps in safety. And they conduct some safety training with them, maybe help them show our grass and original planners and things of that nature. Well, West Fertilizer company did that. Their initial findings were damaged electrical wiring, missing guards on augers and conveyors. Anyone familiar with Bridger? In the barn? Those guards, right? You don't like those guards. And then they had no formal safety training. Accident investigation, learning safety meetings. Never held them. Just a bunch of guys doing the job now. Right? So that was 2008. Well, in 2009, they came back. The findings were visible structural damages observed on grain, the grain bin, damaged electrical wiring, identified, sounds familiar, right? Grounding wire corrosion. Temporary lighting installed. And again, no formal training. No accident investigation, nothing. So 2008, 2009, what's one thing that we can say for sure about them in terms of their safety culture? Is it getting better or is it getting worse? Nothing changed, right? So what's happening to the risk? The risk is here, it's already evident. What's going on with that risk? Going up over time. But you know what, as it's going up, guess what, less fertilizer is doing. We're making a pretty good profit. Right? And the owner, he was a hands-off one. So he lived up the road. But he wasn't really involved in the day-to-day. He had a foreman for that. And so as long as the bottom line made sense, his job had that. That's what was happening. They got dropped by their first insurance company. Picked up by another insurance company. That insurance company was the one that was there with the incident. That insurance company did actual loss control surveys similar to what we just talked about, but did not share it with the public. Alright. Well, one thing that does mention is they had outdated or incomplete written policies. So even their policies and procedures, they either didn't have them or they just did enough to pass whatever government requirement or compliance. Alright. So the things to consider. What warning signs are visible? Based on what I indicated. What warning, do we have warning signs or something was probably going to happen? Yeah, what do you think, Tom?
Just flagged. Just go ahead.
Got to get our swag, here we go. What else? Any other warning signs that I saw? Correct. 100%. They defer the maintenance, right? They defer making any corrective actions. We give them the corrective actions, you know, like that. What are they doing? What is their own, right? You don't know anything. We pay our premium. And they're a private organization, so they pay the premium. You're gonna cover us in any incident. All the other stuff, yeah. How do we normalize deviation play a role in repeated inspection cycles? We already discussed that. What that means is they just kind of got the inspection report in, looked at it, they laughed, and kept going on with whatever they were, if they were ready at all. Here's an interesting one. What leadership behaviors could have changed the outcome?
Establish some safety training.
One for the right.
Love. I can't tie it, no.
Actually, you can, what else did we do? Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Who do you think got the inspection? So even if you're hands off and you're at home, you know, connecting your other business, you get an inspection report that says, hey, you got these deficiencies, and these are serious deficiencies. Right? If you're not day to day, you're gonna be that day, right? Hey, what's going on over there? When are we gonna get all this fixed? What do you need from me? Or do we say, hey, let me call the foreman, hey, I got this report from the morning to you to take care of this stuff. Thanks. Like. No. How does this compare to risk president in your county operations? This is why you don't have maintenance if you're on complaint.
This what?
How does this compare to some of the risks that you see in your own county operations? You know? You see parallels? Things that might be going on? Yeah.
Yeah.
Things.
I've been here long, but it's mostly just implementing the training
Mhm.
that is available, using the resources that are available. Like this, first step and maybe hopefully that we implement going forward in the county and getting the information out there. Leadership taking extreme ownership of all of their, I don't know if y'all know that book, Plug.
Good book.
Read Jocko book, but taking ownership of your departments,
Right.
different departments,
Mhm.
and implementing all of these policies that we have.
Have y'all tried implementing policies already? Have you already started speaking about implementing like the new policies and procedures about things or?
We've spoken a little bit, both of the county judge also.
Right. Right. How's the reception? Typically, that is not the case. Usually when, no one likes change, right? So whenever you try to introduce change, you get resistance. That's probably 80% of the battle. Is getting them, hey, let's just try this. Maybe if we do this instead of we've always done it that way. That's the phrase that pays. When I hear that, it's just like, oh, here we go. Because always done it that way typically will get you in trouble. All right.
But budgetary is to reduce that budgetary was,
Mhm.
I mean, somebody doesn't do what I do on a regular basis, they don't understand why I need to enter the car.
Exactly.
Or why I need to do camera, or why I carry weapons, for instance. So,
Right.
I mean, I think that's, budgetary, when we go and we have request funding, it's difficult because a lot of people don't know necessarily where individually to go.
Exactly. And
Request wise.
that is one of those where you start. That's where communication is so important and being able to speak to every single department and being able to make sure that they understand exactly what you need. A lot of times, and I'm guilty of this happening too, sometimes I'll just start throwing safety stuff at folks. And like, this is the risk, it's elevated, and you should do this, and this, and they're like, wait a minute, like, we don't have time to do that. And so I have to take it back a minute and kind of explain why it's important and how it could just easily be, put into place without a whole lot of, moving things around and moving parts. And so that's super important. And typically what we like to see, or what I've noticed over my years of experience is not everyone can do kind of making things all make sense and how they go together. Just utilize that person over and over again. Give them a raise or something. I don't know if you can do that, but do something and just say, hey, you are now the spokesperson for everybody. He'll go to a department and tell me what you do, why you need this, so that I can explain it to these folks. And that gets everyone involved. So everyone has input and everyone can come up with the best approach and the best practice to move forward. And a lot of times it's the money versus what the outcome is going to be. So just to wrap up West Fertilizer Company. After the explosion in the investigation, there were 25 serious. Now, the actual violations go and it's a general violation, and then serious is the highest level. They had 24. 24 serious violations. And this is conducted by the state as well as federally, everywhere. And it says failed to protect employees from fire and explosion hazards. No written hazard communication. Failure to develop inspection or fire prevention measures. Ammonium nitrate stored without adequate fire. That's a big one. I mean, I'm no fire expert, but ammonium nitrate sounds pretty serious to me, right? Failure to segregate ammonium nitrate from combustible materials. Fire extinguishers not properly maintained or inspected, and inadequate maintenance on the ammonia systems themselves. 24 significant, any one of these hazards that I just listed could have caused a significant issue on with that kind of. Any one of them, they had all of those. I have a question for you though. Remember we did a true and false a little while ago? Which one of these says it's the employee's fault? Which one? 85% of the issue of the employee's fault. Which one of those was the employee's fault? Not a single one. You know, we're very quick as leaders to be like, if they would have just done that. Just did that. I told them to do this. They didn't listen, right? Most of the time, when the investigation is conducted, it's your responsibility as leaders to ensure that your employees know what they're doing things correctly, they're complying with the law. So it's never going to be, well, I'm not going to say never, sometimes we know that, but the majority of the time, it's going to be leadership stuff. The fault will reside with you. And that is something that I want you to take away from this meeting. Every time you go out and you talk to one of your employees or your staff and you ask them to do something, understand that if they didn't understand what you asked them to do and they go out and they injure someone or they injure themselves, it circles back around. And you're like, well, I told them. Well, how did you tell them? Well, I told them really quick and all. Okay, well, did you ensure that they understood what you were saying? Have they done it before? Did you check to make sure the situation was safe or within reasonable risk? Or did you just tell them to go out there and take care of it and move on? That's a leader's responsibility. Every single day, no matter how small the request is or how big it is. We have to think like that. Like, oh, wait a minute. Time out the problem and make this. Let me ask questions. Because they typically can't ask questions because you're getting your guidance from someone probably above you. It's usually the case, right? So you're the one that has the responsibility to ask questions for them. And then once you get clarification, then you come and you can explain that to your folks. But if we're just doing it and we're just passing on that Nike attitude, just do it, eventually something happens as a result of that. So there are ways for us to kind of see when things are going in a bad direction. Some of you have probably been in some of our loss analysis or claims review meetings where we go over and we talk about, hey, the county's had this many workers' comp claims, and this is the trend we're seeing. Based on those trends, we'd like to do this kind of thing, right? So I'm just going to go over some really quickly. I don't want to hold you too long. Really quickly over some data and some metrics that you could utilize, whether it's safety, or a different department like road and bridge, maintenance, any departments that you can utilize to kind of help them track things. The first thing I want to talk about is a leading indicator. Leading indicators are going to be something that shows you that there may be an issue, or it shows you how you're doing before something happens. These are going to be your most valuable tools to utilize, leading indicators. That would be, say, a near miss report. I have a list here. If we're talking about road and bridge, safety training. That's a leading indicator. You have me in your face a couple times a year, your outcomes regarding your state or your actual losses gonna go down. Because I'm gonna do this in front of your crews. And we're gonna talk about safety. I'm gonna preach a safety culture minded focus. So having a safety training, that is a leading indicator of positive improvement in the county. Also, equipment inspections. Whether it's a walk around, whether it's every quarter, every month, we're gonna go and we're gonna take a look at all the equipment, make sure everything's good to go. Building inspections, same thing. Walking through the buildings, making sure fire extinguishers have been serviced, making sure everything works, checking the plumbing. Make sure the pipes are in good shape, things of that nature. All of those are leading indicators that you guys have a healthy practice in terms of safety and protecting the company's resources. And if we do that together, and that's the reason why I'm here, that's the reason why Haley's here, is to protect the county's resources. Right? And utilizing, partnering with us helps you do that. At any moment in time, John is a perfect example. He can call and say, Harold, I want to do a building walkthrough, or 6, right? Or 6, one Monday morning. Let's go do some building walkthroughs. I want you to take a look, tell me what you think about these. I show up, we go to all the buildings. We do a walkthrough, we talk about it, you'll get the report soon. It's really that simple. We are here to work for you, not the other way around. So if you call me, I pick up the phone. If you send me an email, I respond. For the sheriff's office, I know we don't have any, do we have any law enforcement in here? There it is, right there. So use of force, de-escalation training, that'd be a leading indicator. Transport vehicle inspections. Just happening to glance at some of the law enforcement losses, not here in this county. I've noticed a trend with those transport vehicles. There's something weird happening there. So keeping an eye on those things. And then jail safety walkthroughs. I'm not in law enforcement, but I know a whole lot about loss control, risk control, safety, a ton of that stuff. Outsider coming in can see things from a different perspective. So those are extremely valuable for me. Now, we had the leading indicators. Let's talk about lagging indicators. Can anyone think of what a lagging indicator would be? What do you think that is? Think about after something happens. Like when I come to the county and I'm like, hey, I have this report and I'm looking at your number of workers' comp losses. It looks like it went up from last year. All right, that's a lagging indicator that tells me there's an issue. Right? And so what that essentially means is whatever happened has already happened. You already suffered those losses. And so now we have to, once we look at the report, we got to start running and start fixing things, right? Right, we don't have much time because we're already experiencing new losses as I'm having that meeting. So lagging indicators, they're valuable, but again, they're after the fact. And we don't want things after the fact. We want to predict as closely as possible what's going to happen, and that's a positive outcome. And that's why we focus on leading indicators. Why reporting matters? It identifies the hidden risks. having someone come out and just talk to you about things. You're identifying, where's the risk at that I didn't just automatically know about? Yeah. Drives accountability. Once we find or identify a risk or an elevated risk for something of concern, whose responsibility is it to mitigate? Well, we can't get to that point until we figure out and identify those risks. Enables pattern analysis. For the most part, my job. That's what you have me for, what they pay me for. So I typically can review all of your data, pull out different types of trends. I can let you know, hey, there's a culture issue. Hey, there's a leadership issue. There's a staffing issue. So those are very valuable. And then prevents future harm. Number one, that's what we want to do. I mentioned earlier when I was telling the story about my Marine buddy, I saw that there's an elevated risk for him, more elevated than me, because I went to the wall. He went to the edge, and I saw him, right? Did I say anything? No. 18 years old, I'm just doing my job. And a lot of us sometimes, as employees and staff, we're just doing the job. We're not looking out for each other, right? And that's how we get ourselves in trouble. And so those are the type of things we like to talk about. And whenever I'm in front of crews, whether it's road and bridge, maintenance, whoever I'm in front of, look out for each other. Number one. And don't be afraid to say anything. You need to call timeout to whatever the project is or whatever we're doing, call that timeout. And then your manager or leader is not going to be upset with you because you are saving the county money, time, resources by calling that timeout and having us take a look at it. I don't think we're going to do the video today, so I'm just going to jump past this. Very interesting fact. I'm going to read this to you because I know it's small. Anyone know what a near miss is? Did I already mention that? Near misses? It's when essentially we are not only reporting when like a workers' comp claim happens, but we're reporting when an incident almost happens. Right? So if you happen to be walking by and you see one of the county vehicles doing something unsafe, like backing without a pilot or without someone watching, that's unsafe. Near miss. Fill out a near miss report. We get enough of those and I see those actual trends. I'm picking up the phone and making a call. I'll come out here and do some training. Give you some data regarding why it's so valuable to have assistance when backing large vehicles. It's really that simple. It's so very valuable. But if you look at this, this is something that was formulated back in, I believe, early 2000s. For every 600 near misses, where it was almost an incident happened, there are 30 property damage incidents. So for every 600 that almost happened, 30 happened. For every 30 that happens, you're going to have 10 minor injuries. But here's the big one. For every 600 near misses, you're going to have one fatality or serious injury. Now think about that. How many times have you almost gotten into an accident? All right. Now think about a whole entire road and bridge group. How many near misses have they had that no one even knows about? No one even knows. Right? The average is if you have 600 near misses, someone's going to be seriously hurt or killed. That's what the numbers bear out. And that's why the near miss reporting is so important. And getting that off the ground and getting it started, where your employees feel empowered to come to you and say, hey, this happened. And then you then go on the back end and kind of try to understand why it happened and prevent it for the future. And this isn't about getting anyone in trouble. Near misses are things that almost happen, not that they happen. The importance and the value in them is getting that information so that we can detect trends and kind of reduce or mitigate that risk. Maybe we need to have a refresher on what they're wearing. You know, heat related things, it's about to get hot. Let me ask you a quick question. Do we think, based on what I said about the near miss reporting, is that a leading indicator or a lagging indicator? Leading? Anyone says lagging?
It's lagging.
It's lagging.
As it comes after.
Comes after the fact, right? Okay, what else we got? Leading, lagging. No? It is a leading indicator because nothing's actually happened there. Because nothing's happened, we're just trying, the only thing that happened was something almost happened. So we're getting that data and we're preventing events that will happen based on that formula I just showed you, the 600 to 1. Because we get that information, we're able to prevent that one from happening. Does that make sense? It's a very, very valuable tool. You want it? This is a reflective safety range here. This is pretty cool. There we go. So the value in that is, again, nothing's actually happened. No one's gotten injured. That's the value, because no one's gotten injured. And now we're not only are people not getting injured, but they feel empowered to tell us about this. We're communicating, we're coming up with best practices, and we're preventing future injuries. It's no better than that. So encourage reporting. If someone does report something to you, ensure that you investigate, ensure that you analyze it, and you follow up with it. Nothing worse than I'm like, hey, I almost fell off a ladder because it's old and it kind of a little wobbly. And then a month later, I'm still using that same ladder. And you haven't circled back and said, what's going on with it? All right, that'll be the last time I tell you something, because now it seems like I'm complaining. So if someone comes to you, whatever the issue is, again, this applies all the way around, whether it's road and bridge, in the office, someone comes to you with an issue that somehow might hurt whatever whatever you're trying to do, follow up with them. Take the time to follow up with them, because that encourages them to keep coming to you with that information. In the safety world, we have something called the HIRA, and that's hazard identification and risk assessment. Essentially what that is maybe once a quarter, once a year, we'll go out, we'll look for things, identify hazards that we may not have seen before. We write a quick report, submit it, and again, someone takes the lead on resolving whatever those issues are. Now, HIRA report can also be something that could just be on hand. So if we see that there's a hazard somewhere out in the field while we're working, then we fill out that report, send it in, and your leadership will then take up the responsibility for resolving that, mitigating it, or at the minimum, explaining to you why the risk is considered acceptable. Just
Incidents where they're not seeking medical care,
Mhm.
need
Yeah.
action, touching.
It's coming, yep. Yeah, but this is actually, I'll talk about that now. So going back to the near miss report. A lot of times that's confused with zero claim reporting where there are $0 claims, where someone gets injured, a very minor injury, and they report it, and then we kind of place a stake there and get all the information, and we're waiting just in case it gets worse or gets aggravated. We can always circle back to when they initially reported that claim, right? That's slightly different from the near miss report, because something did actually happen whenever there is a $0 claim. When it comes to the $0 claim, the reason why you want to encourage your folks to do that, even, if they slip and fall and like, my leg hurts a little bit, you tell them to go report immediately. Just go, hey, file that report. It's not a big deal. It's not gonna hurt anything. The reason being is that they might not be in pain right at that particular point in time. Right? But give it a month, give it a couple weeks. give it a couple of days. Right, all of a sudden they're limping, all of a sudden they're back to work, but then they re-injure themselves kind of the same way as a result of that previous injury. We need to be able to track that because that's how you get the claim. So what we'll see a lot of times is we'll see someone come back and say, hey, I'm injured, but the reason why I got injured is because that one day, 3 years ago, that I fell off a ladder, I never reported it. And it's like, well, yeah, you can report that now, but our actual claims adjuster is gonna look at that and say, okay, there's no evidence that, or no supporting evidence that you initially had this fall or this injury. So now they have to try to investigate it, talk to the manager, their manager, talk to whoever they can talk to, pull records. But a lot of times those end up being declined because we just don't have the information. But if you encourage your folks to do that $0 claim loss, that first notice of loss, that basically timestamps it, and we have all the information for us to refer back. Super, super important. And again, as an insurance guy, I'm going to talk about the loss trends. Based on what I'm seeing on those records, as we look at these workers' comp claims, I can see, hey, we got a bunch of $0 losses, but they're all slip, trip, and fall. And they're all this department. Hey, we got a problem with that. Let me go talk to the leadership over there. Super important. Super important. So, about to wrap up. Again, I apologize for, you can't really see this. These are what I call the pillars that reinforce safety. Active listening, listen to your folks, communication, make sure that not only are you communicating with them, but you're empowering them to communicate back to you. Transparency, super important. If they don't trust you, they're not gonna tell you a thing. Think about transparency, empowerment, just spoke about that. Awareness, have an understanding of what's going on with your guys and gals. Know what they're doing, right? Be involved. And finally, continuous improvement. That's my favorite. We always try to improve. No matter how good we think we are, we keep going. We could be better at it, right? And these pillars are built through leadership action. That's the one thing that I want you to take away, is that this is all about action. We have to do all of these things deliberately because as leaders, it's so easy to go in 50 different directions. A lot of times, 50 different directions in one day. We're over here, then we're over there, we gotta take care of this, oh, now there's this. And the one thing that typically takes care of itself is a competent crew or a competent team. So they're out there just doing their thing. And as long as they're good, I'm good. Until they're not good. We gotta know what's going on. And again, I wanna kind of reinforce that. I know I'm talking about safety here, but this doesn't apply to safety. I have 2 degrees in safety. And I'll tell you right now, the majority of the classes are business classes. And the reason being is that if you apply these same principles to any operation, any environment, you will be successful. Your outcomes will be successful. What I mean by that is if you're applying safety, let's say in your road and bridge crew, if you're applying these principles and you're empowering them to speak with you about, things that are going on, what's going to happen is you're going to find better ways to do things. It's going to make you more efficient. It's going to make life much easier for you. Then you're going to also avoid incidents and accidents and injuries. People off work, so now you have lost time. What happens when someone goes down and they're off, they're at home for a month?
You can't see the harm unseen.
Say again?
You can't see the harm unseen. Right? We do a safety check every morning on our trucks.
Good deal.
First thing is a little water.
Mhm.
You check their lights, tire.
Right?
Number one was do not run on bad time.
That's right. That's right.
Don't get your miles out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Get to use.
Yep. But you know what's really cool about that is that if that's your thing, make sure you don't run on bad tires. What do they have to do in order to see all 4 tires? What do they have to do to see all 4 of those tires? They gotta walk all the way around that vehicle, don't they? So you better walk all the way around that vehicle, because I don't want to see any bad tires. As they're walking around, tires are good, but hey, I just saw something here. What is this? That's what I'm talking about. Those things.
Same years. I stared at tires, tried to run good Michelin tire,
Mhm.
and one, years.
Simple as that. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. And one thing I can tell you, just based on how you're speaking about this, is that your crews know that you're serious about tires. And they know, hey, I better check this truck.
It's not a race.
There you go. There you go. And that's what it's about. So I just wanted to wrap this up by saying, there's a couple things that your TAC teams, again, we're here to work for you. We're here to work for you. We're not the long arm of the insurance law or anything like that. We are here to work for you. If you call, we're gonna pick up and we are going to respond, whether that means I show up here, as long as I get to stop in West for that sandwich. And we're gonna help you guys out, whatever you need help with. So we can do on-site safety surveys, loss runs and claims analysis. You want to just know what's going on within the county as far as the losses, claims, lost time, things of that nature. Safety training programs, I'm your guy. And then return to work consulting. Hey. Right? So we're here for you, whatever you need. We work for you. I want to reiterate that. We work for you. It's not the other way around. So, and I never say no. You can ask Haley that. I never say no. Gets me in trouble all the time. And these are your consultants. You have Haley as your HR. Here I am as a safety guy. You have Kenny as your law enforcement consultant. Great man, former sheriff up north. And then your risk management consultant, she's kind of the coach, is Lisa McKay. So she comes in and she'll just, wherever she needs the help, she's there for her. So we are all here for you. The sole reason is because we're here for you. One last slide, if you want to do it, it's up to you. What is your key takeaway from this session? Let's see if you're going to do it. And you should, if you've already logged in, you should be able to just pop right back into that browser. You can just do a key takeaway. I turned off the comments, so just in case you want to say you sub and you can see that. And then just a final reminder, safety is how we lead. If you think about things in terms of keeping your employees, your staff safe, again, it doesn't just have to be law enforcement, road and bridge, it doesn't have to be that. Be right here in the office. Keep them safe, right? Let's try to figure out ways to help them out, encourage them to talk to you. What you get on the end of that is better practices, more efficiency in your offices, and just a better overall culture when it comes to safety and well-being. And that's what we're all about here at TAC. Right? I'd like to thank you all for your time today. Again, I apologize for this screen being, maybe I'll bring my big monitor or screen next time I'm here so you can see everything, but I do appreciate your time. We'll probably do another seminar pretty soon here, with specifically with the employees and the staff about safety culture. So look forward to seeing you guys all again soon.